Star Trek promotes Lower Decks' first officer faster than Strange New Worlds #1. Starfleet has always prided itself on being a meritocracy, a place where hard work, bravery, and the occasional daring violation of the Prime Directive can vault an officer up the ranks. But in the world of modern Star Trek, it seems some characters are climbing the promotion ladder a lot faster than others. With Star Trek, Lower Decks' Commander Jack Ransom recently becoming first officer to Captain Carol Freeman, and now potentially moving even further ahead, it's hard not to notice that Strange New Worlds Commander Una Chin Riley, better known as #1, has been stuck in essentially the same job for far longer. The situation is both amusing and slightly baffling. Ransom, the muscle-bound, smug yet surprisingly competent XO aboard the USS Cerritos, appears to be advancing his career trajectory with a swiftness rarely seen in Starfleet's bureaucratic tangle. Meanwhile, Una has been Captain Pike's right hand since before the events of The Cage, more than a decade prior to Strange New Worlds, and still holds the same post in the show's current timeline. In Starfleet years, that's like watching a warp core warm-up sequence in real time, very, very slowly. So why does one first officer zip through promotions while the other seems trapped in a time loop? The answer lies in storytelling priorities, character archetypes, and the sometimes contradictory rules of Star Trek canon. Ransom's rise, the lower deck shortcut to success. Let's start with Commander Jack Ransom. He's a parody of every gung-ho Starfleet XO you've ever seen, part William Riker charm, part James T. Kirk bravado, and about 60% Jim protein shake. In Lower Decks, his promotion arc isn't framed as a years-long climb up the chain of command, it's just part of the series' tone. Animated Trek thrives on speed. Situations escalate quickly, gags pay off within minutes, and status quo changes happen with less friction than in live-action series. When Lower Decks needs Ransom to look more important, he just is. He doesn't suffer from drawn-out story arcs about Starfleet bureaucracy, lingering political fallout, or rigid adherence to promotion protocols. Instead, Ransom's rank is a comedic tool. He can be the swaggering #1 in one episode and nearly acting captain in another without requiring a full ceremonial episode dedicated to it. It's this narrative flexibility that allows him to appear as though his career is rocketing forward, even if most of the time it's played for laughs. And it's worth noting that Ransom is actually good at his job, in his own ridiculous way. While his narcissism and over-the-top machismo could sink a real Starfleet officer, Lower Decks turns those flaws into comedic strengths. He handles dangerous situations with an absurd level of confidence, inspires loyalty in the Cerritos crew, and has managed to survive multiple crises without major scandal. In a comedy setting, that's promotion material. Una's stalled career, the Strange New Worlds dilemma. Now compare that to Una Chin Riley in Strange New Worlds. She's one of the most competent, capable, and respected officers in Starfleet, a master tactician with decades of experience. She's also served under Christopher Pike for so long that it's practically tradition. In universe, this might be seen as loyalty. Pike clearly values her presence on the bridge, but in television terms, it means she's locked into the #1 role because that's her identity in the franchise. Canon complicates matters further. Una's history stretches back to the unaired Star Trek pilot, The Cage 1965, where she was portrayed by Majel Barrett. At that time, she was already the ship's XO. For Strange New Worlds to promote her beyond first officer would essentially be rewriting established history, even if the series is already playing in the pre-original series space where some creative liberties are possible. But the bigger obstacle is storytelling. Strange New Worlds relies heavily on the ensemble's chemistry. Una's relationship with Pike is one of the show's emotional anchors, mentor-mentee, trusted confidant, and equal partner in command. Moving her out of that position would shake the show's dynamic in ways the writers might not want. In other words, her stalled career isn't an accident. It's a deliberate choice to preserve narrative stability. Promotions in Star Trek, a very uneven playing field. Across Star Trek history, promotions have never been evenly paced. James T. Kirk went from lieutenant to captain in a matter of years. Jean-Luc Picard spent decades moving from ensign to captain before the events of The Next Generation. William Riker turned down multiple captaincies to remain Picard's XO, while Catherine Janeway's crew saw Tuvok and Paris advance far slower than might be realistic for their accomplishments. It's not just about merit, it's about the story the writers are telling. Some characters are defined by their ambition like Riker in early TNG, while others are defined by their steadfastness in a particular role like Spock as science officer for decades. Una fits into the latter category, while Ransom, whether intentionally or not, is written into the former, even though his ambition is often more implied than stated. In universe explanations, bureaucracy versus bravado. If we try to explain this disparity without breaking the fourth wall, Starfleet politics offers some plausible theories. In Lower Decks, the Cerritos is a California-class ship doing second contact missions, not glamorous work, but also not the kind of high-stakes diplomacy that would attract deep political scrutiny. That makes it easier for someone like Ransom to move up quickly without attracting too much attention from Starfleet Command's more cautious brass. On the other hand, Strange New Worlds USS Enterprise is Starfleet's flagship in everything but name. Its officers are constantly under the microscope, both because of Pike's high profile and the Enterprise's long history of pioneering exploration. A promotion for Una might require a high-profile transfer, which she may not want, or the kind of political maneuvering that takes years to arrange. Her brief legal trouble over being an Illyrian in Season 2 further slowed any possible career advancement. Even if she was ultimately exonerated, that kind of scandal tends to stick in Starfleet's personnel files. Audience perception. Comedy changes the rules. There's also the fact that Lower Decks' audience doesn't expect strict realism when it comes to Starfleet career paths. If Ransom suddenly became acting captain for a few episodes and then stepped back down, viewers would accept it as part of the show's absurdist tone. By contrast, Strange New Worlds is a prestige drama with careful character arcs. Promotions are treated as momentous events that shift the show's direction. Think about how Strange New Worlds handled Spock's temporary command or La'an's security role. Those moments are played with dramatic weight. If Una were promoted out of her first officer post, it would demand a full arc about her replacement, Pike's adjustment, and the political implications. Comedy can hand-wave those consequences. Drama cannot. The real reason Ransom's promotion feels faster. In truth, Ransom hasn't necessarily outrun Una in terms of actual Starfleet career years. We've simply seen him go through more visible changes in fewer episodes because Lower Decks condenses story beats. A running gag in the series is that wild, career-defining events happen to the Cerritos crew off-screen or in rapid-fire sequences.